Hello everyone, welcome to Sachii Online Academy. So today we want to look at visual programming using C Sharp. We want to look at visual programming using C Sharp. So in this live session, we are going to look at maybe the ways you can use to tackle any given problem, right? If you have any problem that you are given, maybe in an exam situation, how do you answer or how do you approach those questions? So sometimes you just need to be yourself, right, and then try to think around that problem, right? So what we have at question one, it's an issue of error handling as well as debugging, where you'll be given a code and then you'll be asked to debug, right? So basically, when being given these questions, what you really need to do is to really look at the syntax itself, as well as maybe to look at the logical part of the program as well, because sometimes the errors that you might have will be not to be on the issue of a compilation error, which is most likely the syntax. So you really need to know the types of error that you can encounter when you are coding something like that. So when you are coding, maybe there's the syntax error, right? That one where you go against the basic grammatical rules, right? Maybe it's not that, but maybe it's logical part of it, right? So the code doesn't have any error. It will compile, it will run, but now it's not giving the exact result that you really want, something like that. So that's the logical part of it. So sometimes maybe that will be the error, or maybe it might have a runtime error. So in runtime error, maybe you can talk of maybe the code is the syntax is very good, but maybe when you're now running the code there, maybe there's some part where to attempt to maybe to divide by 0, something like that. So you end up having a runtime error that you cannot divide by 0, something like that. So those are some of the things that you really need to look at, right? So first thing, read about those types of errors that you can get, and then try to hunt for those type of errors at any given code. Then you'll be good to go. So that's what you do when it comes to the issue of error handling. So I want to try to be quick so that we do not waste much of time. So when you're given this one, so this one, the question said the following C# code contains errors. So it have got some errors there. So do not say it doesn't have any error, because you are told that there are errors there. So identify and correct them. So you need to identify the errors and then you correct them. After correcting the errors, then modify the program to handle any runtime errors using a try-catch block. So we want to use the try-catch block later on. So guys, if you have any question that you really need to ask, there's a live chat there. Use that live chat to type your questions there. I'm sure I will see them and I will respond to those questions. So I already have this demo project that I've already created. So it's the one that I'm going to use. So it's just a console app that we have, and it's the one that we are going to use, right? So let's make use of this. Let's make use of this code. Just hold, someone is calling me. Just wanted to, sorry for this, but someone is trying to call me. Okay, so so the issue is that this is the code that we have, and we need to look at this code and see if we have any error there, right? So if you look at it, we do not have any compilation error. Why? Because it is really compiling, and there is no any error which is here. So on the issue of syntax, there is no error there. We are good. That's great, right? So what could be the next thing, right? Because we do not have any syntax error there, or any grammatical error, which means the next error should be on the logical part of it, or maybe on the runtime part of it, right? So what do? Let's look at this part. This part is just to declare an array of size 5. So there's no any problem that we are going to encounter there. It's very, very simple and straightforward, right? And then if you look at it on the next thing there, we've got this for loop that we have here, this for loop. So let's try to look at this for loop and see what is happening there. Maybe it's the part which is going to tell us where could be the error is actually coming from, something like that, right? So if you look at this, we are declaring or we are using the I variable to iterate through this loop, right? So this part is to initialize I to 0 first. That's where we are going to start, and then our condition here is that I must be less than or equal to 5. So if you look at it, here on this part, we are going to also consider 5. So if we look at the number of iterations that you are going to have, maybe if you look at the array first, maybe if you look at the array is going to have the index from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Why? Because the size of the array is 5. So we are going to have 5 boxes, something like that. And the index is going to start at 0. So the first box we have got an index 0, the second one, the second block we have got index 1, the third one index 2, the fourth one index 3, the fifth one index 4, something like that. So if you are going to iterate from I 0 up to I is equal to 5, which means you are going to try to access index 5, of which with the array now of size 5 it doesn't permit that. So you are most likely to have an error at runtime, and that error is when we try to access the index, like here. So the error is actually here. Why? Because the error is actually here. So the error is here. Why? Because when I is equal to 5, you are going to try to access the index 5, and when we do that, to try to write the value there at index what? At index 5, then we are going to hit an error which says that the array index out of range, something like that, or out of bound. So if you look at it, that's where the error is. So on this question, you are being asked to identify the errors and correct them. So that this is our error here, that we have the runtime error here, and the runtime error here is going to throw an exception of our index out of range exception. So what do we need to handle this very well, right? So the first thing was to correct. So instead of less than or equal to 5, we just need to put less than 5, so that when we run this, there will be no error there. There will be no error. Let's try to run this. Let's wait for it so that it will run. So if you look at it, then it's done there, so there is no error there. So since we do not have any error there, what it means is that we are good to go. We have managed to find where the error is, and then what do we need to do next is to fix, right? What do we need to do next is to fix this, so that we do not encounter any error. Like here, they are saying modify the program to handle any runtime errors using a try catch block. So we wanted to make sure that we catch all the runtime errors that might happen here. So how do you do that? You just need to wrap this, maybe this entire code inside what? Inside a try catch block, something like that. So we have a try here, we have a try block, right? So we put the entire code inside the try block, and then we put the catching exceptions there. So here we'll be catching each and every exception that you happen there, right? But as we already know that there is an exception which is going to happen like what was there. What do we do? Maybe we can try to specifically say and show that we really know that this code was going to throw an error, right? And what was that error? The error, it was index out of bound exception, something like that. So what do? I will just also put another catch here. On this catch here, I want to try to be specific, right? I will try to be specific, and I will put the index out of range exception. This one that I will put there, index out of range exception. So I'll just put my ex there, and then what do I do here? Maybe I'll just print out that maybe error, you are trying to access the index outside the array bound, something like that. So that's what I will just do there. I will just say error, or just say error there, and then you just put the message there from what, from this one. If you just do so, it does write that on its own. It tell you that you are trying to access the array outside the array bounds, something like that. So it will just print that for you. So here is just any error that happens during runtime. That's where you put this that statement here, that if anything happens during runtime, so we just say that there's something that happened there, or you just say an unexpected error occurred there, something like that, and then you put the message, something like that, an unexpected error maybe happened, and then you put the actual error there. What is that error? You can just say ex dot message, something like this, then you are good to go, something like that. So basically that's how you do that. Maybe you can also put the finally part of it if you really want. You can also do that, but I don't think it's necessary though. So this is the way you can handle errors or exceptions that might arise during the program execution. So that's all on this. First thing was to identify where is the error. You state what is the error there, and then you correct the error there. And after that, so when you're writing, you'll be writing on paper. So that's what you really need to do. You need to first state what is the error, and then after that, after stating what is the error, I'm sure you'll be now able to correct it. After that, then you correct it, something like that. How do you correct it? Use those try catch blocks that you have used. So the next thing is to look at this question 2, which was talking about conditional statements and decision making, right? So on these ones, I think it's a little bit not confusing, but now you want to apply more logic than what we have been doing, right? So here you are being asked to develop a C# program that determines a customer's discount based on a membership type and the total purchase amount using conditional statements. You are being told to use conditional statements, right? If you are not being asked to do so, maybe you are free to use maybe the switch statement or whatever that you want to use there that you think can give you the best result. So here let's use the if else statements, right? And if we look at it here, we've got the membership type and the total purchase amount, and so this membership type is affecting the final a customer is going to pay. Maybe it's you with your business. So here we are saying, okay, so we've got a membership type. So we've got those who are regulars, maybe regulars customers, maybe it's any gym, whatever. And then we've got those with silver, and those with the gold, and those with the platinum. So the spending there, if you spend something greater than $100, you get a 5% discount for silver, but for regular, just get 0 for any amount that you're going to spend there. For those gold, with gold membership, you get 10% discount if you purchase something greater than $300, and then for platinum, if you spend some more than $500, then you get a 20% discount, something like that. So you want a program which you actually calculate the total purchase amount using the conditional statements. So how do we do this? We need to remove the discount from the total amount, and then boom, we left with what? With the total amount, something like that. That's what we want to do there. So maybe on the basic structure there, how do we do this? How do we plan to do this, right? So maybe the first thing which is good to do is to first understand the problem, and that's what I've tried to do here, to explain. And then after that, we need to know what are we going to create, because we already have this program, and this one's not requiring us to create maybe any other class to do inheritance, to do what it's not even necessary. So what do we need to do is just maybe to just our simple code inside the main method. There's no need of creating any new method there. It's not even necessary, but you can have a special method which is there to calculate the total, or something like the total purchase amount, and after that then you call that method, but it's not even necessary though. So what do we need here? What do we need here is to have where to store these regular, silver, gold, platinum, which is the membership type. So we need a variable there. So we are going to create a local variable inside the main method, and this one is going to be type, something like that, so that we'll be able to store the type, something like that. And after that, we want to store the amount the customer is the total amount, no, not the amount the customer is paying, but the amount that actually was spent by the what? That was spent by the customer. Okay, so we are going to have a double there, then you put amount there, and then what do we really need? Also, we need the discount rate, something like that. So let's say double the discount rate. What's the discount for regular, for silver, for gold, for platinum, something like that. So we want discount rate, something like this, discount rate. So initially let's put it at 0. Why? Because we are going to change it according to regular, to silver, to gold, to platinum. But to those who can see, for a regular, any amount that they are going to spend, they are going to get 0% discount. So if there is any variable that I feel I might need, maybe I will declare it later. It's not a crime if I missed it, then we can declare it later. So what's the next thing? Now I've got the variables that I need, right? So the next thing is to now to tell the person, because we want to accept the membership, and then the amount that was paid by the customer, or whatever, something like that, that was spent by the customer, and then from there we started to do our code, something like that. So the first thing is to ask the user to enter the what? Let's ask the user to enter the. So I think it's good to also put comments as well if you want. Asking the membership type, it's always good to do so. The membership type, that's what we want to do here. So I'm going to ask the user to enter the membership type. So here we just say enter membership type, something like this. And maybe let's just show that the membership type is regular. It's good to show that, so that the user really know we've got a regular. What else? I'm sure it's a silver, gold. So we've got silver there, then there is gold there, and then there is platinum, something like that, platinum. So after doing this, what do we need to do there? We've asked all the information that we want. I don't think there's anything that we really need to type there. So after doing this, we need to use read line to take what the user has actually typed, and we store it inside what? This string type. So to say type should be equal to, because we always read a string, so there's no need of using the convert. So because when the user is typing there this string, maybe they might put capital letters silver or maybe regular, or maybe they might mix the cases. So it is very really important to just convert maybe either to lower cases or to uppercase, whatever the user is going to type. And also when the user types in, the string normally comes with a maybe can come with a some spaces at the end, or maybe some spaces before, something like that. Maybe a person is typing there and then put a space there, whatever, something like that. So we need to use the trim to remove the initial spaces and then the after space, something like that. So use the trim function, something like this trim. It removes the spaces before and after the what the string, or what the user have actually typed there. And then let's convert it to lower cases so that we work with the lower cases, something like that. So after this, what do we do next? Now we have got the type. The next thing is to take the amount, something like that. So we always again use this console write line to ask to tell the user what do we want next. So we say, and what do we now is the purchase, the total purchase amount that the user have actually spent, or something like that. So maybe you can say total purchase amount, and then after this, now we need to take that and store it in what, in amount. That's when this amount variable can be what, can be used, something like that. So this is what's happening there. So the next thing that we want to do here, sorry, I just wanted to respond to someone there who is maybe asking a question. So I don't know, someone was saying I can't see if it is only my network. Maybe it's their network, I don't know. Maybe it's their network. So others can confirm. Others can confirm. Others can confirm if you are, if the sound is good. Others can confirm if the sound is good. Others can confirm if the sound is good. We can just type there on the live chat if the sound is good. But I'm sure that the sound is actually, I'm sure that the sound is actually good there. I don't know, but let me try to see if everything is okay there. I hope my network is working very well. Okay, thank you. So if the sound is good, then I think the issue is on their network. So those with problem with the sound or whatever, maybe you can try to refresh or something like that, because I'm seeing that others have no problem with the sound. Okay, so what we can do now is that, okay, we're looking at the issue of amount. We're looking at the issue of what, of amount. Sorry, I was just responding to those that have got an issue with their sound. So I thought maybe my mic have done the unwanted thing there. You know what happens sometimes. Okay, so let's look at the issue of amount. So we wanted to take the amount. So how do we take the amount now? So we need to use the convert, right? So we need to use the convert. Why do we need to convert? Because we always take a string, right? So we use convert to double, and then we use this console.read line inside here. So it's going to take a string there, so you type 20 or whatever to use the logic part here to implement this part. of if this is if type is silver, and then someone if got to spend $100, then we give them a discount greater than $100, then we give them a discount of 5%, something like that. So we are going to ignore regular, but if you want, what do you do there? You use the if statement there, and you say if type now is equal to regular or something like this, but it's not even necessary there. You see why I'm saying so. And amount is greater than 0, because here it's just any amount there is greater than 0. Let's just say greater than or equal to 0. Then what do we do there? What do we do? So if you look at it, we are supposed to give the discount rate, and the discount rate is just 0%, because it's 0% for an amount. So it wasn't really necessary to do this. Why? Because the discount rate by default is what is actually 0, something like that, just like that. So let's come here and put an else if, right? So we put an else if statement. So it's else if, then so something like this. So what do we want here? Now we are saying if type, else if type is equal to, the next thing is what is silver, something like that. So we are using small letters because we've converted the input to small letters. And then we say amount is greater than amount, if the amount is greater than $100 there. So what do we do there? The discount rate, let's say the discount rate will be equal to so if you look at it, it's 5%. So what is 5%? 5% is 5 over 100, something like that. So it will be 0.05 as a percentage there. So let's say 0.05. If you want, you can just put 5 over 100, something like that. 5 divided by 100, it will just put the discount rate is what is 0.05, something like that. So now after that, we are not going to do any calculation there. We just want to do the calculation just after, but otherwise you could just repeat the formula to find the final amount, but we want to just use the formula once, something like that. Why? Because the thing which is affect us is the discount rate. So we are checking these figures, and then we initialize the discount rate with the, and after that we calculate what is the discount and what is the final amount, something like that. So after doing this, now we need to use an to have an else if statement again, and inside here we want to check if type is equal to, after silver, what do we have? We've got gold there, so we put gold, and we use the AND operator, and then we say amount is greater than, that's the 300, right? So we say 300. So what do we do there? We put discount rate, sorry, it should be discount rate, because the discount rate is 10%. So 10% is 10 over 100, right? So it will be 0.1. So we put 0.1 there. So we have another else if, right? So sorry, we have another else if there, and we say type there, is it what is platinum? Yes. So if type is equal to platinum, so in the amount, I'm sure it's greater than 500. If amount is greater than $500, so what do we do there? Amount is greater than 500 there, so we put the discount of 20%, which is 0.2. So the discount rate will be equal to 0.2, which is 20%, something like that. So that's what we do here. That's what we do. So after this, now we have a way of initializing the discount rate, right? And now we know that now we've managed to match the amount that was the type and the amount that was spent, and the discount. So the next thing is to calculate the total purchase amount. How do you do that? You know that the total amount the customer is going to pay after the discount, you just need to separate the discount. So what do you do there? Let's find discount, because we've created a variable called discount here. Do we have a discount? Okay, we do not have. So let's create double then discount there. And then, so what do we do there? You can even put it to 0 there. There's no problem to initialize it with a 0 there. So what we want to do is to have to calculate the discount. So discount will be equal to what? For us to get the discount, we multiply your amount with the discount rate. This one will give us the discount, or the total discount the customer is going to have, right? So after having this discount amount times the percentage, whatever, if it is 5%, so it will be amount times 5%, whatever, then we get the discount. After that, we want the final amount a customer is going to pay. So that final amount is going to be the amount that you are supposed to pay minus the discount. So this is the final amount. So after doing this, we've managed to answer this question. Maybe what we can do now is just to print out and test it to see if everything is actually working. But otherwise, we've managed to what? To calculate everything that we are supposed to do, or to answer this question. So this is all what we wanted. Maybe now let's just print out, maybe let's just say console right line, then we say let's print the type there. What was the type? So let me do this. The type was actually inside the variable what type, right? So let's put this one maybe to uppercase, right? Dot to upper there, something like this. I'm supposed to close this here, something like this. So we are going to have the type there, and then after having the type, what are we going to print? We're printing what? Also, let's put the amount will be in dollars there, and what could be the variable is amount. And then the next thing is to print the discount. Let's print the discount, right? Let's just print everything there. Let's print the discount. So use right line, console right line, to print the discount there. So the discount is also in dollars there, and the variable is what? It's a discount. And then let's print the total amount to be paid there, something like that, or a total purchase amount, something like that. So which was the one that wanted the total purchase amount. So let me just say CW, yeah. So I want the total purchase amount, something like this. Okay, so here it's going to be in dollars there. So let's put final amount. I'm sure it was final amount, something like that. So now it's the time to test if we've done our code very well, and if it is actually working. So let's wait for it to run. Let's wait for it to run. Let's wait for it to run. Okay, so it say end on the membership. Let me look at I want to see the let's go with this. What is it saying? The total purchase is $900. So if you look at it, we were using the type, the membership type is gold, so the discount is 10%, and we've spent $1,000, which is greater than $300. So 10% of $1,000 is actually $100. If you calculate 10 of 100 times 1,000, so you get $100. I'm sure you get $100. And if you say $1,000 minus $100, you get $900. Really need to look at which is on the issue of loops. and arrays. It is on loops and arrays. Okay, so let's look at this question, which was saying that write a C# program that accepts 10 numbers from the user and stores them in an array. So we want to, that's the first part. We want to ask or to accept 10 numbers from the user and stores them in a what? In an array. And what to do after that? What we want to do is to find and display the 3 largest values in descending order. So want to display the 3 largest values in descending order. That's what we want to do there. I think it's a little bit of a work, but it's not that much. And then the part B is saying modify the program to sort the array using the bubble sort algorithm. We are supposed to use the bubble sort algorithm, and and it's saying do not use the built-in sort function, which means you are not going to use the built-in sort function. So at this part we can use the built-in sort function, but at part B now we are not allowed to use the sorting function, and we are given a hint which says use a for loop for data input and store results in an array for sorting calculation, something like that. So that's what we are going to do there. So let's try to do this. We want to store the data there, and then we want to find the largest there, and then after that something like that. So that's what we want to do there. I don't think it's something which is hard to do. So let's dive into our code, but I want to check if everything is well. Okay, I think we are good. I want to check if on the live chat, but I think everything is good there. If there is any challenge, maybe I would have seen that. Okay, so now let's look at this. So I want to remove the whole code which is here. Also, if you look at it logically, we are not supposed to create any other class besides what we already have, right? So for me here, I'm just using the default template that we have here. For a project here, we just have this class program and this main method here. So inside here, that's where we are going to put our code there. That's where we are going to put our code. So I'm going to start with the part A, and maybe we edit our code later on to do the part B, something like that. So the part A is, the first thing is to accept 10 numbers from the user and store them in an array. That's the first part. So how do we do it? First thing, let's declare our array, right, to store those numbers. So this array is going to be of integer type because we just want to store integer numbers, and then let's call it maybe numbers, and then because we are not going to give it the actual numbers there, so what we want to give is the size, which is supposed to be 10 because we want to store 10 numbers. And after doing this, what's the next thing? The next thing is to accept 10 numbers from the user. So instead of just typing enter first number, then you say read line, then write line there, enter second number, something like that. We want to use a for loop to iterate 10 times while asking the user to enter what? The numbers, and taking the numbers and store them in a what? In an array, just like that. I think it's very, very simple. Right, so let's create our for loop there. So what I'll do is here I always want to give the structure there, and then later on come here to have to put the statements for the for loop. So normally for a for loop we put the statements, 3 statements. The first statement is for initializing, then the second statement is actually the condition which is going to be able to loop through or to iterate our block here until this actually become false, something like that. To become false, we stop iterating this code, this block of code. So we are going to stop whenever I is less than what? Is less than the not the, so the length of this array. So here we can put 10 here, but because we have got an array that we have created, let's just use its method, which is numbers.length. This one tells us, try to what I was saying, I just want to print the the array length, something like that. Let me just say this is not part of the answer. I just want to show you what happens if I print numbers dot length. We want to see what's there, right? So let's print this so that we could just see what is it. If I do so, I'm sure I'm get a 10 there. So this one will give you the size, right, of an array, which is 10. So the length method gives you that. So if we do so, it's as good as we've put a 10 here. So we are going to iterate from 0 up to 9. Why? Because when we get a 10, the 10 is less than 10. No, so it's not going to get in here. So why are we doing so? Because the array have got size 10, so it runs from index 0 up to index 9, something like that. I think it's very, very simple and very, very straightforward. Maybe if I come here and let me just Google arrays there, maybe I will get a simple I want to show you maybe something like this. So if you look at this one, an array like this, they've got index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like this. But if you look at how many boxes do we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the size of this is actually 6, but index runs from 0 to what? To 5. And if you look at it, an array would be in this shape or in this form, where we could have blocks of memory there, where we could do store, and it would be numbered by this what by this what do you call, by these indexes, and the index starts from 0 up to n minus 1, where n is the size of the what of the array. So this is what will be happening here. So the next thing is to ask, sorry, now I want to write in Java. Yes. The next thing is to ask the user using right line there to say enter, and want to ask the number, right? So you say enter number there, but normally what happens is because this is going to be repeated, something like that. So we want to say enter the first number, like enter number 1, something like that. So how do we do that? To say that, let's just use this variable I. So if you just say enter number here and you put an I there, so let's put plus for string concatenation. What happens is that it is going to say enter number 0, enter something like that, like following the index. But what you want is this to be just one number ahead of I. So you are going to say enter number 1, something like that. So you put the first number there, enter number 2, so you put the second number there, something like that. So that's what we'll be doing there, something like that. So I think this one I should put it at the end there. So here let me just put a space there, and after this let me just put this one, so that I need to say enter number 1 there, and then after that we put the 4 colon, and then after that we want to store that inside our array. So we do this. So at index I, you are going to store whatever the user is going to type there. So we use convert there. Why convert? Because the user in typing we get a string, so we want to convert that number to an integer, because we're using an integer. So we use convert to integer, and that's what we are going to use there. We are going to use convert to, so let me just type it, so convert to int there. So we use, they use this int 32 there, and then in here that's where we type our read line there, right? So it's console, sorry, I do not want to see. So it's console dot read line there, something like this. So after doing this, we are going to read a number there, and we store the number at index here, at this index. So if I is equal to 0, we store the number at index 0. When I is equal to 1, we store it index 1 until we reach, when I is equal to 9, we store the number at index 9. And then when I becomes 10, we do not have index 10 here. So we stop there. Why? Because 10 will be not less than 10, something like that. So we go outside this for loop. So normally that's how we accept those numbers. That was the first part of the question, which was to accept 10 numbers from the user and store them in an array. So if I run this, you find out that it is going to allow me to enter. So I was supposed to enter the first number, which is 01. Why am I getting a 01 there? Let me put the second number. Oh, 21. I think there is something which is happening there. I think I'm supposed to put something. I'm sure there's something that I did wrong there. Let me put this one in brackets because it's a string there. Sorry, I'm sure I'm supposed to put this one in brackets. Sorry, I'm supposed to put this one in brackets. Suppose this one is a string, so it's adding a 1 to this and something like that. So that's what I'm supposed to do there. Otherwise, I'm doing a string concatenation there, so there will be a challenge. Yes, so it will be enter number 1. So I'll put maybe 34 there. I'll put a 3. I'll put a 2. I'll put a 5. I'll put something like that. Something like that. So that's all. I've actually entered 10 numbers. So that was the code that you're being asked to do there. Then the next thing to do was to find and display the 3 largest values in descending order. So how do you do this? Because it's silent about that. Let's make use of the sort. Let's make use of the sort, which is a function that we can find on array that we can use to sort the elements of an array. So how do you do that? You use the array keyword there, and then you use the sort method. Sorry, I thought it was just going to, so use the sort and then just like this. So that's how you do this. So this one is going to sort numbers in ascending order, right? So they will be sorted in ascending order, like 1 2 3 4 5 6 going up just like that, right? Then because we are supposed to display the largest the largest values, 3 largest values in descending order, so you cannot even try to read it in reverse, something like that. So what do we do there? We can just also use this array. You've got a method called reverse. So we are going to reverse these numbers there, this array. So by reversing it, we've sorted it in ascending order. So reversing it, it means that the largest number will become the first number, and then the second to largest will become the second number, the third to largest will become the third number, something like that, because now we have sorted it in descending order. So that's the quickest way that you can do it. And after this, now you can just display the first 3 numbers, something like that. You can even use the for loop to do that. There's no problem. Or you can just print those numbers. I don't think it will be hard to print the first 3 numbers without even using a for loop there, because you want to, maybe with a for loop you will be now need to stop maybe in index 2, something like that. But I think it will be simple to just say maybe the largest, it was 3 largest values in descending order, right? So let's just say 3 largest values in descending order. Was it in yes, in descending order. So in descending order is or whatever. So what do we do there? We put those values there. So let's just put those values. You have numbers, so it's numbers. So we put index there. Index 0 is the first one. So I think this way then it's a little bit longer there. Let me just try to do this so that I will not keep on scrolling. Then the next one is the second one, right, which is I also use numbers, right? Then I'll put the index 1 there, and then I'll put some space in between. You can also use a string interpolation to do this part. I think it will be clean. It will be clean that way, where you use the dollar sign whatever to create this string. I think it will be good as well. Here we say numbers, then I'll put 2 there, just like that. So if I run this, I think I will get what I want. If I run this, let's try it and see what we are going to get. And so here I'm going to put 4, I'm going to put a 3, I'm going to put a 8, I'm going to put a 6, I'm going to put a 9, I'm going to put a 1 there, a 7 there, maybe an 8 there. Maybe let me put the 9th one that I didn't put there, maybe it's a 2 there. Then let me put a 10 there. So if you look at it, I'm going to get a 10, 9, 8 as the 3 largest values in descending order, just like that. So that's how you can do this. That's how you can do this. So if there is any issue there with this code, I think it's good to write in comments there and say whatever you want to say there, something like that. If you have anything that you really want to say, you can actually type in the live chat there. I will see it and I will respond to that. Otherwise, that's all on this. Maybe you would want to do the part B, so I'll try to be quick there. Let's quickly go to part B, where you are supposed to modify the program to sort the array using the bubble sort. So now we want to sort this array using the bubble sort. Here we sort this array, but we no longer want to do this. So this is part B. So on part B, you are supposed to sort this array using what we call bubble sort. So bubble sort is an algorithm, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to take out these 2 and then I'll sort them. I'll sort the array. So here it's no longer about taking the largest in descending whatever. So you're just sorting the array using bubble sort. So maybe what I could do, I just take this out, this part of sorting here, and then I'll try to sort using the bubble sort, and after that I'll reverse it, and then I'll take this output. But in an exam situation, what you want to do is not to do all these things. What you want to do is to just have a function, or to just have a method which is going to sort this, something like that. We have this sort that we have, but you no longer want to use this array sort here. We want to use our own method to sort this. So we can just quickly create a sort method which is going to sort an array. So we are just going to assume that the array is already there, it's having numbers, and what we want to do is to just sort those numbers using the array. As simple as that. I think it's a very simple as that, right? Or the other thing that you can do is to just have a code which is going to what, which is going to sort the array, just like that. So what is that code is the one that we are going to do. So what is bubble sort? I think that's the first thing to talk about. What is bubble sort? I'm sure I do not have anything that needs my attention. Okay, so let's talk about the issue of bubble sort. What is that bubble sort? That's why I have this part that I have already here. So normally a bubble sort is a sorting algorithm that compares 2 adjacent elements and swaps them until they are in the intended order. So you'll be taking 2 adjacent elements and then you compare them. If there's a need of swap, then you swap them until the entire array is actually what is actually sorted, something like that. So you normally bubble the largest number to the end. That's why it is called what, the bubble sort, something like that. So what could be the steps that we need to do when we are using the bubble sort? So first iteration, okay, here suppose we are trying to sort the elements happening there, right? So now we are saying has now come element. After swapping, now you compare the second, the third. If there is any need, then swap until you reach the end of the what, um of the array, something like that. Then you repeat again until the array is what is sorted. So you'll be comparing this, then you do swap if there is any need, but there's no need, then you do compare this, then there's a need of swapping, so you swap this. That's why we've got 45 and 045, and then here you have to swap. That's why we've got 1145. Then here you have to swap. That's why we've got a 45. So if you look at it, we've bubbled the largest number to the end. That's why it is called the bubble sort. We've taken this 45 to the end. Next thing, you start from here again. So you'll be comparing these two, no need to swap. These two, no need to swap. These two, yes, you need to swap. And then once you reach here, because this one is already sorted, you do not need to compare it, something like that. So you go to the next iteration, something like that, until you reach the last iteration, like here. That's what you have done. And then you go to the next part, you do this, whatever. Here you need to swap, something like that, because this 0 is already sorted, you do not need to check it, something like that. So here lastly you do this, and after doing that, because all these are already sorted, so there's the optimized part of algorithm of it, or you can just use the unoptimized one. I think you can argue later about why optimizing, why not optimizing. For this one, we are not asking about the optimization, that you need to optimize the algorithm so that we do not waste the memory, we do not waste the resources, something like that. We are not really looking at that. What we just need to do is to sort using what, using bubble sort. So I don't think it's too much demand on this one. So what do we do there? Okay, so let's look at let's look at this, right? Let's look at this. So here, that's where we want to do the magic there. So we are going to use two loops, right? The outer loop is the one which will be tracking the iterations, right? And then not the iterations, which will be doing the iterations. So that's what will be happening there. It's the one which will be doing the iterations. So now let's look at this. Okay, so we are going to have two for loops, right? So let's have the outer loop. Okay, let's have the outer loop, which is going to start from I is equal to 0, and then I must be less than the length, and then we have I plus plus. So this outer for loop is going to iterate 10 times. So we're going to have 10 iterations, something like that. While the inner loop now that we are going to have is the one that we are going to use to iterate. So for this one also, we need to really look at this, the issue of iterations. If we put 10 iterations, I'm sure we are going to have an error there. The issue of index out of bound, if you look at it, we are going to bubble an element from here to the end, right? So when you are comparing, we want to compare those elements which maybe which are adjacent, something like that. So when you are here, you compare this with this. So if you move up to here, you cannot compare this with something on the right, because it will be index out of bound, something like that. You cannot do that. So we really need to be here, something like that, and then you can compare with this, something like that. So let's make sure that here we are going to be one less than the size, something like that, so that we are going to iterate 9 iterations instead of 10 iterations, something like that. So when you are on the last block there, we are not going to compare the last block with the nothing, something like that. Otherwise the program will crash. And then the next thing that we are going to do is to have the inner for loop. So this inner for loop, let's use J there as the one that we are going to iterate. So here, what I'm going to do here, that's where we want to do the magic there. So here we are starting at J equal to 0, and then J must be less than numbers, then numbers dot length. But here there's something that we really need to do. If you are using the optimized one, you are going to use minus I then -1. Take note of that. Why minus? Because 45. So because the 45 was already sorted, so there's no need of coming here to compare this with the 45, because 45 is already what is already sorted. So with the optimized one, we move we reduce the number of iterations as we go, something like that. So if you put minus I, because I is incrementing by 1, something like that, so we'll be reducing the number of iterations by 1, because you'll be increasing I by 1, so you'll be subtracting 1 on each and every iteration, something like that. So that's where the logic is, that's where the magic is, something like that. So that one will be the optimized one. But you can also remove this as well. There's no problem with that. It will be good. But what will be happening is that you will be comparing from, you'll be completing all the iterations from the first step to the last step, right? Which will be wasting resources some of the time, because all the numbers maybe here will be already sorted, but you'll be going to compare 11 and 45, going to compare, if you come here, you'll be going to compare 0 and 11, 11, 45, something like that, like here, 0 and 11. There's no need to swap them because they are already sorted. You know, we've already sorted them in the previous iteration, something like that, or in the previous step, something like that. So you can either go with this one without, with the -1 only, or with minus I -1. Why minus I? Because you'll be subtracting 1 iteration at each and every step, something like that. So let's go with this one, which is a little bit simpler. So what do we do now? We are in here, so we want to know if you are going to what, if you are going to swap, right? So when do we swap? We swap only, let me just put the if statement here. All right, so here we are going to swap only if numbers, the element at index j, the element at index j, the current index that we are, if that element is greater than the next element, which is numbers at index j plus 1, something like this. So that's when we only swap. If the element here is greater than this element, then we need to swap, something like that. That's when you swap. So we are checking the current index. I'm looking for simple numbers, like let's look at maybe here 11 minus 49. If 11 is greater than minus 49, which means we need to swap so that we maintain the ascending order, something like that. So the next thing is, how do we swap? It's as good as you have got a bottle with a beer and another bottle with a drink. You are supposed to swap. Where there is beer, I want a drink there. Where is a drink there, you are supposed to put a beer there, something like that. How do you swap? So you need a third container so that you could take drink into that third container, take beer into the drink is bottle, and then you take something from the third container there back to the beer bottle, something like that. So you need a third variable so that you'll be able to what, to swap. So let's create a temporary variable here that we use to swap. So what do we do there? We take something at the current index there and we store it at this temporary variable. Since we've stored the in the store where, and they've stored where it was supposed to be, so now the next thing is to take what we've stored at, what we have taken at j there, which was in temp, and store it at j plus 1. Then after doing that, we've managed to swap, and after swapping there, then we are good with this code. We are guaranteed that this one is going to be sorted in ascending order. So if you look at it, so how this is going to happen, because we've got 10 numbers there, so we start at 0 less than 9 there, because it will be 10 minus 1 less than 9, yes. So we come inside this for loop, this one, the outer for loop. After there, we bump into a for loop. So in here we are going to start at j is equal to 0. So is it 0 less than 9? So we say yes. So what to do, we get inside this for loop. So what do we do now? We check, is it the element at index 0, is it greater than the element at index 1? If so, swap. But if it is not, what do? We do not get into this if statement. So what do? We reach the end of this for loop. So we come here, we increment j is equal to 1 less than this one, yes. Do this, check if it is. So if there is need of swap, that's where we swap. If there is no need, we just increment j, check the condition, is there any need to swap? If there is no need, then increment j until we reach the end. So it will be swapping and swapping, something like that, until we finish this. So let's try to test this. Otherwise, that's the code that you really wanted to write this one. So you can either optimize it to put a minus I here, minus I minus 1, or just leave it as this. It will work. It will be still still a bubble sort algorithm, but it will be not the optimized one. So you will see the optimized one. Please do not get confusion there. So here I would put maybe a 7 there, a 9 there, a 8 there, maybe a 4 there, maybe a 0 there, maybe a 23 there, maybe the first one, the last one, let me put a 12. So you see that the largest is 23 followed by 12 followed by 9. We are still getting the good result. Why? Because we've managed to sort it in ascending order, and then here in it's being sorted in reverse order and getting this. So you can sort it in ascending order using a bubble sort, just like this. That's what you do. So that was the requirement for this part, which is part B. So maybe the last question that we are going to do, we are at the last question. I think we managed to manage our time there. But if there is any issue with this, I think it's good to put your comment there in the live chat. You would ask if there is any need, but I'm seeing that I do not have anything there. Okay, so now let's look at the last part. The last part, which was saying, let me try to zoom it out. Maybe it will be better this way. So this question say, create a simple banking system in a C# to demonstrate object-oriented programming principles. So here we want to demonstrate the object-oriented programming principles. So what are we supposed to do? The question is saying that on part A, we've got part A and part B. Part A is saying, let's have a base class called bank account. So we're going to have a base class called bank account. So this is the base class that we're going to create. So let me just clean up here so that when you come here, we do not engage ourselves with all these things. Let me just remove all this. Right? Okay. So we left with this program class with the main method. So this will be our main class, something like that. So maybe you might have other classes that you want to create here. So let's talk about this question, which says here. So the first thing that we now know is that we are going to have a bank class. Define a class named bank with the following properties. I think yesterday we've done properties where we could have fields with the properties, and these properties normally are we have the getters and the setter method, something like that. I think we've done this when we're talking about encapsulation, something like that. So also the next thing that we need to have is a constructor to initialize all the properties. And what do we have as well after that? We are going to have deposit, which is going to be a method deposit double amount, which is going to take amount and it will add amount to the balance, which is going to be a deposit method, and a withdraw methods, which is going to subtract amount only if balance is sufficient. And we are going to use the list to log all transactions, which is all the deposits and all the withdrawal that we are going to do, something like that. And after that, we are going to do the part B, which you have got inheritance and polymorphism there, where we are going to create two subclasses that extend the bank account, where the saving account will prevent withdrawal if the resulting balance is less than $50, and the checking account which is going to allow an overdraft of up to $200. So let's do this part A first. So the first thing that we want there is a class bank account, right? That's the first thing. So let's create a class called bank account, just like that. So you're going to have a class called bank account, just like this. That's the first thing, right? After doing that, we are told that the class must have these properties, right? So let's have the account number, the holder name, and the balance, something like that. And because these are properties, normally you could create the fields like a string, something like that. Maybe let's do that way, but it's not the proper way to do it when you are being asked to do properties. Why? Because when you're being asked to do properties, normally C# does that implicitly. It declares the fields for you or the variables for you. So what we just need is to provide the getters and the setters through the what? Through the properties. Okay, so instead of saying string account, so it's account number like this, and then you give it a property. And what could be the property? Normally we make this private, right? So I think we've done this when we're talking about encapsulation yesterday, where we would say you declare the variable as private and then you give it a public setter and a getter method, something like that. So those public getters and setter methods are the ones which are being called what? Properties here. And normally when you give those properties, it will automatically declare this for you. So there's no need of writing all this. Why? Because when you give it this public the property, so this one will be a string, and then you say this one, it will be account number. Normally it will start with the capital letter there, and then what do? You do not put this as a method there. You just, like what you do in Java, you just put the blocks, something like that, and then after doing this you provide get and set. So how do you do it? Just write get there, and then this you return. So you just write it like this. Let me see, just want to see, sorry, I think just want to see, I think there is still need of another closing bracket. Okay, so what it happens, what it does is that it will return the account number as well as setting the account number, right? Something like that. So what happens if I remove this? What happens if I remove this? I'm getting an error there which says that the name account number does not exist. So you can just provide a get and set without doing this. I'm sure you can do this without using the return keyword, but what you just need to do, you can just, this is the old way of doing it, but I'm sure you can just put a get there inside the block. You can just put a get, something like this. Let's try it, and a set there. Are we going to get any error? Okay, so I'm supposed to terminate, right? Yes, like this. We are not going to get any error there. Just like this. I think it's just the same as what we have done to declare the field here, and then to put the get and the set there inside here, where you would put a return or something like that. So you can either choose to do it the other way or to do it this way. I'm sure you still get the same result that way. So the next thing to do is to have the holder name. Yes, so we have got the account number there. The next thing is to have the holder name there. So what do we do there? Let's just have a public string there. Then we have the holder name, something like that, and then we have the get and the set there, something like that. So that's what it will be, something like this. It's just the same as this, only that here I've put enter there. So the next thing is to have is it balance? Yes, we are going to have balance there. So for balance, let's have a public string balance is, it's not a string there, it should be a double there. It's double there, then it will be balance, and then we put the get and set there. So that's what it is there. Okay, so this is what we have there. So we have declared all the properties, and take note that we are going to log everything inside this list, right? Something like that. So I think we also need to create this list in here at the top. Let's create also this list at the what, at the top. So how do we do that? Let's just have public list. I think it's inside so here list, let's have a string. I think it's inside the generics there, something like that. And then we are going to name this let's call it transactions. This one, let's call it transaction, something like that. Transaction or transactions, something like that. And then what we can do is to give it a get and a what and a set. I'm not worried about their visibility, they being private or what something like that. I don't think it's really necessary there, because we've got the public, we can inherit them. I don't think because later on we want to implement inheritance, so I don't think there will be any challenge there. So after this, inside this, I've got an error because I didn't close the bank class there. I don't know what's happening because of the use of the enter end of the tab key. So the next thing is to have the constructor. I think we've talked about the constructor. They have said that the constructor there is there to initialize the property. So you're supposed to initialize all the properties, and the constructor must always have the same name as the what, as the class, something like that. So we are going to have a constructor there called bank account, something like that. So let's have a constructor there called bank account. So you can make it public there. Then bank account, it must have the same name as the class. And then what are we going to put there in here? We are going to pass. So whenever you are going to create this one, whenever you're going to create a new object of bank account, you need, excuse me, you need to initialize it with the account number, the holder name, the balance, maybe, as well as the transaction. The boss, you are supposed to give it everything that it needs, something like that. So not the list you are not going to give the list, because the list is going to be auto generated, because that's where we will be putting the value, something like that. So what you are going to do is we are going to create a string here, right? And then let's start with the account number, right? So let's start with the account number there. And then the next thing is another string again for holder name there. Let's have a holder name there. And then the next thing is the double that we are supposed to give to this one. I think it's the double for what, for balance, right? So we have the double for balance, just like this. So inside here we just want to give this account number, the account holder name, and the balance there. So we are going to use those variables to give them, so we are going to give them their value, something like that. So that's what we are going to do. So let's try the, so we are going to say account number there will be initialized to, so if you look at it, I just say account number, but you are not going to see any variable named or any field named account number, but this one is declaring it for us, right? Something like that. So I'm going to say account number, then here I'm saying this account number. I'm sure this should work. Sorry, this one is supposed to be, yes, and here I'm saying I'm going to say account number. I'm finding a way to oh, okay, I think I need to do this. Does not exist where is the issue now? If it is saying this one does not exist, I can't access this account number. What's happening there? What's happening there? You want to access this field, this one. I'm sure this one was supposed to create the variable for us. It was supposed to create the variable for us, but I'm seeing that it's not doing that. If I put this, the account number like this, it's not the number does not exist on the current context, so it's not creating that for us. So maybe somehow I really need to create this. Maybe somehow I really need to create this, but otherwise it was supposed to give this for me. It was supposed to give me this this for me. I'm sure it was supposed to do that. So maybe, so if it's not okay, so I need to use this keyword. Okay, so if I use this keyword, I'll be able to access that. So without this keyword, I'm sure I would I'm able to access that. So I don't know what was happening. Yes, you see I can access that. So I don't know what was happening there. I can access that using this one. So I don't know what was happening there. Okay, so I need to use the property name there. So everything will be happening at the background there. So I just need to use the property there. So let's maintain this, the use of the property there. And then the next thing that I need there is the holder name there. So I don't know why I was getting that error. So I also do for balance. And then for transaction, I will just create a new list of transaction there. So this transaction will be there, having a new blank transaction there. So later on I would just use that, something like that. So the next thing after doing this, we want to have a method to deposit and a method to withdraw, because we want to later on do inheritance, overriding, and what or something like that. So let's create them maybe as virtual methods. Let's create them as virtual methods so that we'll be able to implement polymorphism on those methods, something like that. So what do we do here? The next thing is to have the deposit method. So let's mark it public void. This one, because I want to make it a virtual method, I'm sure I need to say virtual. Yes, and then I will say deposit as it was. And then because it's a deposit, if you look at it, I'm supposed to give a double amount there. So let's do like what it is saying, double amount. And then what else later on? What do I need to do? If you look at it, I was being to log all the transactions. We need to log all the transactions here. We are supposed to log, we need to do there. Let's log the transactions using what? Transactions like this one that we have already created, this one. So we say transactions dot, we use the add method to add elements to a list. Think of an array when you think of a list. Think of an array when you think of a list, but the list now you've got its own methods to implement itself. So we can add the elements to this whatever array that we call what transaction, but this one take it as what? It's a list. So it's a list data structure that we'll be using, something like that. So in here, we want to log that we have actually deposited some amount in this. So you can just add, it's a string. So we say deposited, we want to say deposited some XX dollars, something like that. So we have deposited some dollars there. Sorry, I want to put some dollars there. And what is that dollars there? Let's add amount there. So this is what we have deposited there. So we have deposited maybe $20 or $30, something like that. So the next thing is to have the next thing is to have the withdraw method, right? So we are going to do the same. So what I'm going to do is to have public virtual, then This one is still void method, and it's let's say it's withdraw, and it's going to take a double as well. It's going to take a double. This one, yes, it's double amount, the amount that you want to double amount that you want to withdraw, and the amount that you want to withdraw is what is before withdraw is saying subtract amounts only if balance is sufficient. So we want to check if balance is sufficient. So how do we check? We check if the amount that you want to take is greater than the balance which is already there, something like that. So you say if the amount is less than or equal to the balance, you can take the money. There are no charges here, something like that. So you just say if, so something like this. So if balance here, if balance not if balance as such, but we are saying the amount that you want to withdraw is less than or equal to the balance, something like that. What do we do? Then let's allow the person to withdraw. So how do we withdraw? We say balance, we put a minus here, or we just say balance is equal to balance minus amount, something like that. So we reduce your balance by the amount, so we store the result in what? In balance. After doing this, we need to log also this transaction. So we put the list there, transaction dot add. We use the add there to add the transaction. So I can use this interpolation of a string, but we are not going to do that. So what do I do there? I will just say we have withdraw. What if you withdraw some X dollars there? So here we put the amount that we have actually take from this, something like that. So we log it just like that. After that, so we want to check, so just in case maybe the balance is insufficient, so we just want to say else let's just say insufficient balance. So we just want to log that. So we say transactions dot add insufficient balance there. So we want to log that failed withdraw, something like that. So we say failed withdrawal, something like that. Failed withdrawal. Maybe let's put the dollars there. So we log that we failed to do withdrawal of this amount, and maybe we could also write to the screen that insufficient, something like that. So we write insufficient or something like that, insufficient funds. Even it is 50 cents, we call them funds here. Okay, so that's it. I don't know if there are any issues there. I think someone was saying sort, let's try to sort the whole array. I think that's what we have done there. I think we have sorted the whole array. That's what we have done there. Unless if there is any actual issue there, I think I will look at it later. But here, what after doing this, I think we are done with this part. We are done with this part A. I think we are done with this part A. We've created the class bank with the properties and the constructors and the deposit, the withdraw, and this list, and we've logged every transaction. So we are good with this. Maybe you can try to have a show method. It was in the deposit and the withdrawals. Maybe let's just have a show method, so that after doing everything that we've done, maybe you can now show the transactions that we have done, something like that. So let's just have a public, but this is some sort of a bonus for sure. In any exam situation, you could even opt to leave it. I don't think, but it will make it easier for us to do. Am I inside another method? Okay, so that's why I'm getting this error. So here I will say public void. Let's say just have a void. We are going to have a show transactions method, and then in here that's where we are going to just print all the transactions, something like that. I think it's very, very simple and very, very easy to do, right? So what do we do there? Let's just say CW. So we write that transaction logo, transaction logs, something like that. We can just do this, and then after that, for you to print all the transaction log, you need to loop through the entire, how do you call it, the entire list that we've created. So you can either use a for loop or use a for each. There's no problem with that. So for me, let me just say for, because we didn't talk about for each, let me just use a for loop. So let me start from maybe int I is equal to 0. I don't remember if you list 0 base to or start from index 1. We will look at that, but let's start at index 0. I'm sure it will work that way. And the next thing, let's say I must be less than, here we use transactions dot count. Count is one which is going to give us the size, count everything, how many elements or how many objects are there. Normally those will be objects, right? And then we say I plus plus, something like that. So this one will loop through the entire transaction. So we want to print maybe the transaction, like we'll be printing the, what do you call it, let's print the, what we were adding here on the transaction. Yes, you'll be adding transaction amount, something like that. So we'll be printing every item on those transactions, something like that. So here, let me say CW, what do I get here? So transactions, sorry, say transactions here. If I say dot, what methods do I have that I can exploit here? I'm sure in Java I always use get there, not get type, get. I always use get, but here I'm seeing that I do not have a get there. Allow me to find, what is this tag doing there? Of contiguous elements from the start of the sequence. No, I do not want that. I only have, so maybe I was running away from the for each, but let me just go through with for each. Otherwise I will look later on this one. I always make use of Java when I'm doing C#, but I'm sure that okay, let me just loop through using a for each quickly, be easier this way. So in here, sorry, so in here what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a variable here. Let me just use the var there, but what we know that this is just an item from the from the transaction, so it's going to be an object there. So I'm going to say var t in what, in transactions, something like that. I'm going to say sorry, in transactions, something like that. So I'm going to say every item in the transaction there. So that's what I'm going to print. So I'm going to print every item there, and what is that every item that I'm going to print is just a t, just like that. So it will be taking every logo in there and then printing it. So I think that's the easiest to go around it this way. That would be the easiest way to print all the transactions. Anyway, we've wasted much of our time working on something which is not really necessary there. So now let's look at the next part of it, which was to use to create two subclasses that extends the bank account. So we are going to create the saving account and then the checking account, and this should prevent if result balance is less than $50 there. And then this one, it will allow overdraft up to $200, but this one, when withdraw is if prevent withdraw if result balance is less than what, $50. So when you try to do the deduction there and you see that the result balance is going to be less than 50, then you please stop there, something like that. That's what it is saying. So let's start with the saving account. This one, the saving account. So this is where the bank account ends there. So let's create the saving account. What we call the saving account class. So we start by class. So it will be saving account class. So this class is the one that we're going to have. And what are we going to do with this class? So after doing this, so this class is supposed to inherit. So how do we inherit? We use this full colon. We inherit from bank account. So we're going to inherit from bank account. So after inheriting from bank account, here we are getting the error there. There's no argument from us to the required. Okay, so I think this one is the issue of the constructor there, or whatever, something like that. So we need to have the constructor first. That's the first thing to have, because we're inheriting from this bank account. This bank account have got this constructor that we have here, this one. So we need to have our own version of the constructor here that we have there, something like that. So how do you do that? You create your own constructor here, public, and that constructor should be, this one should be savings. I think there should be savings account. So the constructor will be savings account, and then in here, what do we do? In here we need to have the account number, the name, and the balance. Those are the first thing to have. The account number, right? Those are the first thing to have. Then don't worry, we will be taking this from the super class, which is from the bank account. So we'll be not repeating to enter those values, something like that. And then, so because this one should be a string, this one should be a string account number. And then the next thing that we need is the name, which was here. I think we have, yes, the holder name. So we want the holder name there. So it will be string name. So the next thing that we want there is the balance, right? So it will be double there, double balance there, something like that. And then after doing this, these are the things that we really wanted for the for this class to have, because whenever you are going to create the service account, it should be, that account should have the account number, the name, and the balance. So these values, you are not going to retype them, whatever. So this balance, these values, sorry, should be come from this bank account. So what do we do there? We take them from the bank account using this full colon there. So we put base to refer to the base class, which is the bank account there. So that's what we do. If you look at it, it will give us everything that we wanted there, something like that. So it will give us everything that we want. So this one will be taken from this constructor that we have here. So whenever you're creating the object of bank account, that object will be with the account number, the order name, and the balance. So that's what we'll be taking there, and that's what we'll be putting on this file, something like that. So that's what will be happening on that. So now we've created the constructor and we are good with the constructor. There's no error there. So the next thing that we are going to do now is to actually create the code that we want, which was to prevent withdrawal if resulting balance is less than $50, something like that. So what do? We do not want to redo the whole code for withdrawal. We only want to do this part to make sure that we prevent with the withdrawal if the balance is going to be less than $50. So we are going to override the method which is already there, and we just add the functionality that we want. Everything will be taken from the bank account, something like that. The withdrawal, we do it from the bank account, class, something like that. So I'm going to have public, I will say public. This one is because we are overriding, we use the override keyword there, and then void, it should be the same with the one that we have there. So because here we want to withdraw, we take this, withdraw this one, right? Something like this. So if you look at it, because you're overriding, it is calling the base method with withdraw with the amount, something like that. So this method that you already have here, let's look at this one, is the one which is being called, which means we have everything that we have here. But now we want to check if the amount is going to be, if the balance is going to be less than what, less than 50 after, then we say no, something like that. So how do we do that? So before doing this, we need to check, before withdrawing, we need to check if something like that. That's what we need to do. We need to check if the balance, we want to say if the balance there minus amount, if balance minus amount is going to be greater than or equal to 50, then we can what, we can withdraw, right? That's where we can call this method. Else we cannot do that, right? Else we cannot withdraw. So what do? We say withdraw what, denied, or we can do whatever we want to say, but actually here withdraw, well, was or denied, or was denied or denied. Why? Because minimum minimum balance of maybe $50 or $50 is required, something like that. So that's it there. So I think I've done a good job there. Don't think there's anything that you really need to do. So the next thing is to create another class, the checking account class. So now we are just repeating, only that we are now only going to change this part, which say balance minus amount is rather than equal to 50 there. We are now going to change that. We now allowed to go up to $200, but not beyond that. So we can have an overdraft of $200, but not going beyond that. So how do you do? We just do the same like what we've done. So I'll try to be quick so that we save time there. Our time is not good with us. But about the list balance on the issue of data type there, the list of balance is on the issue of data type. I don't know what was the really question. What was the question? I don't know what was the question exactly, but I think if there is any help that you need there, please make sure that you put the actual or the complete comment or the question there, so that I will be able to pick where the issue is. So let's look at the checking account. The checking account, I think you've looked at it, what it really needs. So the first thing is to have the class, and this class is going to be checking account, something like that. I'm sure that's what it is. And like always, it needs to, I'm sure it needs to inherit from what, from bank account. That's why I've said that we are going to do the same. And if we look at it, we need to have the constructor, right? So that constructor is going to be public, then it's going to be, because it's a constructor, it takes the how do you call it, it takes this, the name of the class there. So we have the account number, the name, and the balance, like what we've done there, and then we take it from the base class, something like that. That's what we are going to do there. We take it from the base class, so we put base there, something like this, and then I'm sure that it is going to do everything for us just like this. I think you can go and read about constructors as well. You can see how do you, if you have a constructor in the base class, how do you inherit the data members from the base class to the derived class, something like that. So it's a mandatory to have that constructor there if you have a constructor in the base class. something like that. So the next thing is to make sure that we ensure that we allow an overdraft of up to $200 and not beyond that. So I think we are just doing the same thing here. So we are going to have the withdrawal method, but now we are overriding it. So you say public, because we are overriding, we use override. Then because this one is going to be a void method, so we use void, and then we are going to override the withdraw method. And before calling it, we want to check if we are not going to exceed $200, something like that. So we are going to check if balance minus amount is going to be within the overdraft limit. So the other way, you can declare overdraft here limit and put $200 there, and then something like that, you can do that. But let's just say here, if balance minus amount, but here it should be greater than or equal to $200, something like that. So if balance minus amount is going to be something around greater than or equal to $200, so you're allowed to what? To withdraw. So what do you do there? You can withdraw there, right? So because you have withdraw, we can now also log the transaction there. Because the transaction is public, we can also inherit it. So we have it in this class. We do not declare it because we've inherited that. So we use add there, and after adding it here, now we can add the transaction. Say that we have withdraw. Sure, if withdraw, how many dollars we put plus amount there, something like that. So we have managed to withdraw. Otherwise, we will log an overdraft there. Else, not an overdraft, but we cannot withdraw because the over is going to exceed the overdraft limit, something like that. So we put console there, CW there. Inside here, we could say withdrawal. Withdrawal denied there, like what we did before. And if you want, you could also tell that overdraft limit will be actually exceeded there. I think that's the correct term to use there. Will be exceeded there, something like that. Overdraft limit exceeded. So that's how you do this. After doing this, then we are good to go. We have done everything. What to do now is just to make use of the of all the code that we've done. So you can now create the objects using or the account numbers, whatever, something like that, using those classes. And after that, you could call the deposit, the withdraw, whatever. If you want to deposit, withdraw, whatever that you want to do there, and also show some transactions. So but this one now is now a bonus. But otherwise, what we really want to do is what we have already done, something like that. We've already done everything that we want, but maybe because we are not writing on paper, whatever, we just want to test our code. So inside the main method here, now inside here, we can now create the savings account as well as the checking account, something like that, and then we try to deposit and try to withdraw, something like that. So that's what it will be doing there, just like that. So let's try to create the service account object and call it maybe S account, something like that. And then we say this one will be equal to new savings. Obvious, that's what you are going to use there. Sorry, it's a savings account. And then here we need to pass the names, like the first one was what was the first thing to go there? Is the account number, right? So let's put the account number there. Let's say the account number is going to be S001, something like that. And then the next thing to pass there should be the name of that. Let's say maybe it's Alice, and then the next is the balance there. Let me put maybe $100. 002 whatever, or maybe because see, let me use C here, and maybe here let me use my name there, and then here let me put let me put maybe $300 there. And then after this, let me try to deposit some money to this account, to savings account. Let's see. So here we are just try to deposit. Let's try to deposit some amount there. So here we are going to deposit $100. So let's just do the same to see account, which is my account. Let's just deposit $100 as well. And then let's try to withdraw there. So let's try to withdraw from both accounts. So let me start with the savings account. So let's withdraw, maybe let's try to withdraw from this account. Let's try to withdraw maybe $300 there from the savings account. Then from the this account, which is mine, let's try to withdraw again, maybe maybe with let me try $400 there, and then let's try to show the transaction there. So here you want to show the transaction for, I think here it will be a little bit mess there, but this here also let's do for C account dot show transaction, something like this. So we could also show the transaction after doing the transaction here. Let me just also do this, and then we show the transactions to see the transaction that we've done, or we could do, I think it's good to do that. So also let's show the transaction for C account. So you are now just showing what is happening there, no longer to need to do whatever. So now let's run this, nothing that I need to enter. Let's see if the code is not going to break, and if it is going to give us what we want, then we would say that we've done a good job. So what are we going to get? Wow, good. So first, the transaction log, we have deposited $100. Also we have deposited $100 as well. This one, withdraw denied, minimum balance of $50 is required. Deposit $100, withdraw denied, overdraft limit exceeded, and then we've deposited $100. So okay, yes, this one will also show the the log that we've done before, something like that. For that object we've deposited $100 before. So this one, I think if we look at it, like here there was 300, which one? This one saves okay, so this one's checking account, there was 300 there, and we have added $100 there, so it was $400. So we've tried to take $400 out of it, so there was something like that. Let's look at what we were required to. For the checking account, the overdraft was supposed to be what? We've tried to withdraw $400 out of which is the C account, out of 100 plus 300, it was $400. So we were not supposed to have that error. We're not supposed to have that error, unless if I misread that. We're not supposed to have that error, unless if there was any error there, overdraft there. Why should I would get that error there? Why should I get that error there? I think about the okay, I think if I look at let me just look at if balance minus amount, if we left with is going to be 200, it's going to be greater than or equal to 200. Okay, I think so. Here, if we put, so I think we need to look at this one. Maybe let me try to put maybe 200 here. I want to see something there. Maybe I want to see something, and I'll try to take, let me see, overdraft, withdraw, overdraft. I think I need to really look at this and see where we have done the error there. Why are we exceeding the limit there? In the something like that. I think we really need to look at the code there. Where am I getting it wrong there? Because I think it was, let me deal with one account. Let me deal with one account. Let me deal with the one with the $300, that one. Let me just try to withdraw from it without depositing anything. Dot withdraw. Let me just try to take maybe just 100, and maybe let me just try to show some transactions and see what I will get there. Maybe that way it will be good and easier to debug if there is any issue there. Then withdraw, we managed to take $100 there. That's what we have done. And what else? So inside the logs, that what we have done there. So maybe let me try to take all the $300 there out of it and see what happens there. Let's try to take the $300 there. Withdraw net, overdraft, limit exceeded. Where is the issue? Now we have tried to just withdraw the $300 and saying the overdraft is exceeded. We are passing $300 there. And we are checking if balance minus amount is greater than or equal to 200. Okay, maybe what I would do here, maybe let me try to log something here. Maybe let me try to log something here. As I'm doing this, this would help if I try to print balance minus amount and see what I have there. Maybe from there I would see what's happening there. Let me put this in a bracket so that I would maybe somewhere it's only that. So let me say the balance there. I just want to see the actual balance. Only that I wasn't logging the actual balance, so I want to see the actual balance there. So I'm supposed to close here. Okay, I want to see the actual balance when I'm withdrawing. So let's see what is happening there. Or maybe I'm doing a double withdrawing there, so I'm not even getting the. Okay, it's because it's it's because it's going this direction. Okay, I'm getting it. So let me put it here. That's where I'm supposed to put it. So that's where I'm supposed to put it. I hope the time is still okay. 8:06. Okay. Okay, so the balance is 0. So if the balance is 0, okay. So if the balance 0, I'm getting it. The overdraft, the overdraft limit, that's where the issue is. I need to put a minus here. I need to put a minus here. That's the overdraft there. I think the accounting part is not getting it's not getting me. Okay, that's the issue there. The issue was the issue of the overdraft. So I was supposed to put minus there, so I can still withdraw. That was the thing. So if you look at it on the code there, the more you make mistakes, the more you get to it. So if you look at it, I managed to get the best way to debug my code or something like that. That's what you do sometimes. You put something there to see what is the actual value and where am I getting it wrong. So the issue was here on minus. I was supposed to put minus 200 there because that's an overdraft there. So whenever I have greater than or equal to minus 200, we are still okay. So that's it, guys. That's it there. I hope someone had put a comment there, but there was no any comment there. But otherwise, thank you. That's all. That's everything there. I think for today we can call it a day, unless if there is anything that you really want there. Otherwise, you can call it a day. If there is anything that I really want to share, I would also share with you. But for today, that's all for today. That's all that I have for you. I hope I didn't took longer to finish this, but otherwise, thank you guys. Have a good time, and we'll catch up on the next tutorial if there is need. But otherwise, that's all.